name is Balogun Ojetade. I am the screenwriter, the co-writer of the story, and the director of Rite of Passage.
I'm Milton Davis. I'm owner of MV Media, and I'm one of the executive producers of Rite of
My
Passage.
name is Akin Bobola. I am a member of the Roaring Lions productions team, and I'm a full instructor at the African Martial Arts Institute. I am one of the producers of the film.
Rite of Passage is about the four legendary guardians of the town of Nicodemus, Kansas. Harriet Tubman, her student Dorothy Wright, the lawman Bass Reeves, and the steel driving man John Henry. They are the protectors of the town Nicodemus, Kansas, which was a real town that was established by free blacks and inhabited by free blacks, former slaves, okay, and a few Caucasians as well. The entertainment mogul, P.T. Barnum, is at odds with Nate Love, who is the owner of a rodeo. They are competitors. Nate Love is doing a little bit better than P.T., and P.T. Barnum wants Nate Love dead because of that. Nate Love escapes into Nicodemus, and P.T. Barnum has hired a team of semi-human assassins, and they're going to go into the town of Nicodemus to get Nate Love, but to do that, they have to get past those four legendary guardians that we mentioned. So that's what the story
Rite of Passage is a steampunk movie about the city of Nicodemus and some of the special people that inhabit
Rite
it.
of Passage is about a special city, Nicodemus, that is protected by four historical figures: Bass Reeves, Harriet Tubman, John Henry, and Harriet's student, Dorothy. These historical figures have special abilities, and let's just say in the movie you get to see just how special these abilities are.
For us to understand what steampunk is, we first have to know what steampunk is, because steampunk is actually a subgenre of the subgenre of fiction called steampunk. Steampunk is fiction, fashion, film in the future, all fueled by steam power. And they possess a Victorian era aesthetic. Think top hats, think steam trains, think goggles, think leather, think League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, think the Wild Wild West, and you have steampunk. Steamfunk is the African/African American expression of steampunk. It's because a lot of those stories that we tell in steampunk have never been told. Steampunk doesn't deal often with the ugliness of that era. It doesn't deal with slavery, and it doesn't deal with the workhouses. In steampunk, we dare to tread there. We go there. Steampunk tells the untold stories. For example, in steampunk, you hear about Tesla, the brilliance of Tesla, and he was indeed a genius. He was a genius inventor, genius scientist. However, you never hear about George Washington Carver, who actually produced more than Tesla did, who was just as genius as Tesla, at least. But we tell those stories. In our world, in the steampunk world, George Washington Carver is a hero and is as hailed as Tesla is.
Steamfunk is a variation of steampunk. What it does is that it incorporates the African American and African experience into the steampunk genre. In the past, steampunk has been basically focused on Victorian England, but what we're doing here is incorporating the history of people of color into the steampunk genre.
Steamfunk is steampunk taken from a black or African perspective. Steampunk is extremely important as it provides us with heroes and sheroes that we can relate to. And in turn, this brings many of us to the genre of steampunk.
Rite of passage should and must be made because, as I said earlier, we deal with the untold stories. Rite of passage is the untold story. We're dealing with the origins of John Henry, how he received his hammers. We always hear the story of John Henry dying, the man against the machine, and he beats the machine, but he dies in the process. Not in the steampunk world. And we never hear about how he gets the extraordinary abilities to break through a mountain and beat a steam shovel. Well, we show you how he receives his hammers. And we show you in a very dynamic and exciting way. We show you what a conductor of the Underground Railroad really is and the power that they must possess. We show you how Bass Reeves became the legend that he is. Bass Reeves is a legendary lawman known as probably the greatest lawman in the history of the West, and you'll find out exactly why and how special he is when you watch Rite of Passage. We, and when I say we, I'm meaning black people, don't have many heroes to look at from history in fiction. All right, we had a lot of heroes, but we're not taught about them in school. And in history, history has kind of been hidden from us, or we just haven't had access to these stories. And in fiction, we're always the sidekick, the noble savage, things of that nature. So when people say, well, black people don't read, we do read, but we're not going to read something we don't associate with. So it's important to tell these stories. It's important that you hear about Bass Reeves and he's larger than life, and these heroes are for young boys and girls to gravitate toward and for adults. I wish I had such heroes to look up to in film and in television and in fiction when I was growing up. So I'm giving back to the future generations. I'm giving back to all people and telling the stories that must be told.
Rite of Passage should be made because it's an excellent film, and it will be the first film actually showing steampunk in this format.
Simply exposure. There are many of us that don't know that steampunk and especially steamfunk exists. We hope that the film will expose those globally who don't know. You can sense my British accent. I'm very keen on taking this movement to the rest of the world.
You should donate your hard-earned money for many reasons. One is because you are helping to make history. As I said earlier, this has never been done before. As my colleagues have said, this has never, ever been done before. These stories have not been told. And it's time, it's past time really, but it's time that those stories are told, and in our hands, we're going to tell them well. You should also support because you're helping in the education of students, not just those that are watching and learning the history, but we're in partnership with Georgia Tech, and the Georgia Tech students are involved in every part of the process, from pre-production, casting the film, location scouting, to production, actually shooting the film. They're operating the cameras, several are acting in the film, to post-production, editing, they're doing special effects, sound effects, students are scoring the film, they're doing this with the guidance of and working side by side with industry professionals and veterans. This is invaluable training for them. They won't get this kind of training. They're getting the same level of training, or maybe more, that you would get at the known film schools, you know, Columbia University, the CSU, schools that are known for film. Georgia Tech, of course, is a technological institute. It's known for its science, and it's known for its math and its computer science. However, Georgia Tech is stepping full steam into the arena of filmmaking with RITE of Passage. And we're happy to be in partnership with them. So your support goes towards the enhancement of Georgia Tech and the enhancement of those students who need that. All right. So we thank you very much for your donations and for the building of our future, because that's what your hard-earned money is doing.
You need money to do everything, and even though we're getting a lot of support from Georgia Tech and from other people, we need your input and your investment in order to make RITE of Passage become a reality.
Well, like I said, this is the beginning of a wave of many projects, and we're aiming at reaching people globally. So we implore you to help us with this feat. This is something that is very important to everybody, people all around the globe, and it's a movement that we implore you to come along and join us on.
While we are ecstatic about the great donations that Georgia Tech is making, they're giving us space to set up our production office. They're providing us with the shooting equipment, with the DSLR cameras that we will shoot with. You know, we're using top of the line cameras, top of the line lighting, top of the line rigging. Everything is going to be done well. We're using their Inventor Studio to create the props. They've given us a lot. However, we have to provide the materials for the costumes. We have to provide the materials for the props. There's a lot. It's a steampunk movie, so there are going to be anachronistic weapons. There's going to be, you know, ether pistols, and there's a large room that has these cannonballs that John Henry trains in the room, these spinning cannonballs. Well, those things have to be built, and that takes material. The costume is going to be beautiful, and it takes the materials. Steamfunk is a lot of leather, a lot of thick cloth, you know, cottons and silks, and to make the film as authentic and as beautiful as we envision, then we have to raise the money for those materials, the money to feed the cast and the crew, the money to acquire the locations, because it's a period piece. So there are certain towns that we want to shoot in. We want to actually take the crew to Nicodemus, Kansas, which is now a ghost town. Well, not really, because you said have a few inhabitants, but some of those buildings are still preserved there, and we want you to see those buildings. So we want to take a crew there, so we need the funds for that. And that's why we're asking you to help. We're asking you to help make history. We're asking for you to help make this film. This is your film, not just our film. So let's make it together. Let's build this thing together. Let's make history together. And you will definitely be happy with the product, and you'll be glad that you made that investment. Thank you.
Georgia Tech is a major contributor to what we're doing. They're providing a lot of personnel, they're providing a lot of equipment, but there are still some things that we need that goes beyond what the college can do, such as we need funds for catering, we need funds for costume design. So all in all, we do need support from outside of the college.
We are grateful to say that Georgia Tech is supplying us with lots of the resources that we need. But in order to make this film the hit that it should and could be, we still need some key resources such as certain locations, props, costumes, etc. And that's why we need the capital.
I feel like we done gone about 100 miles already. What is this place anyway, Moses?
That stroll wasn't nothing, child. This here's where my master used to train me and Frederick Douglass. We shed a lot of blood here, a lot of sweat and tears.
I've been your student all this time and you just not bringing me here?
You weren't ready, Dorothy. Still might not be. A conductor on the Underground Railroad is hunted, right along with their cargo. And we the most dangerous prey.
I am ready, Moses.
We gonna see.
How?
Land one strike or throw me one time and you'll walk out of this floor as a conductor. But of course you gotta do that before I cripple or kill you.
Okay.